you risk your life. You take a drink of water, you risk your life. And nowadays you breathe, and you risk your life. Every moment now, you don't have a choice. The only thing you can choose is what you're risking it for. I can make these people feel better and hang on a little bit longer. I can save lives. But it's reason enough to risk mine.
Professor, your bird. There was nothing I could do. You just caught on fire.
Oh, about time to. He's been looking dreadful for days. Maybe you have to see him on a burning bed. Folks, he's a phoenix, Harry. They burst into flame when it is time for them to die. And then they are reborn from the ashes. Vacillating creatures, phoenixes. They can carry immensely heavy loads of that.
Black Eyes TV 7. Make sure you log in, subscribe. This is an occasion and a big day for all of us that need to come down to the obelisk on the 16th of July, 2017. It's going to be a legacy. Rich, give us some information and tell us why people should be here.
On the 16th, what we're trying to promote is the conscious community here in the UK. We're trying to show actively all the organisations, all the entities that make up this community in the UK, and we're going to do that by gathering and taking this picture, which will show our community and be able to be used in future tense for promotion, for advertisement, and for general informational update on the fact that there is a community and a thriving one at that here in the UK.
Yes, Uncle Konsu, give us something to talk about.
Yes, greetings. This is Konsu, author of Sacred Man. And you know, I just want to say, I always say this, as people of the African diaspora, we are very successful individually. And as yet, we have not come together as a united front to do something in collaboration. So this is a prime opportunity. So once you hit this call out, tell your people and come down so that we can collaborate, network, and build together.
This is a sacred obelisk. Now, Uncle Nico,
Greetings, shalom, salam, peace to everybody out there. Yes, very important to come out here. I'm down with anything that's to do with unifying, making history. We've got this great thing that comes from our land that's here. How we've got here is here. We're here. This will come down, come together under one roof. Yeah, it's going to be big.
So people, on the 16th at the embankment at 2 p.m. sharp, make sure you arrive. Make sure you promote yourself. Make sure you wear the tops. Make sure you wear the identities of each group, each organization, each religion, no matter who you are. If you come from that African diaspora, make sure you're there on the 16th of July, 2017. Let's make history. Peace.
All right, people. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another Black Eyes TV production. Yeah, here talking about the Grenfell Tower block fire. Chopping it up here with my co-host Terry Riggs. Terry, speak to the people then. Can we hear you, Terry? Unmute yourself, brother.
Mute myself. Yes, people. Yes, it's a day of where we need to put things to bed, and we know now is where do we go from here, because we need to move as an economical powerhouse and able to move forward, because of all these things that have been around us and put us into a box. It's about time to say enough is enough. Let's move forward. Richie, break some stuff for us down before we begin.
People's verses now will take the battle. Listen, people. Hey.
Richie?
Yeah, I'm there, brother. Sorry about that. Bit of feedback.
Yeah. I just want you to give us a little of your feelings and what your understanding of the event that had happened in Labatt Grove. As we both were down there, and you saw the building, and you saw the news, and you saw what everything was about. Just give the people what your views were.
Well, I mean, listen, I tell you what, first of all, my heart goes out to all the victims of the fire, all the families that have been going through it. Me and Terry, we was down there. Terry's got people, and you're from West London. I know a few people from around there, and I tell you what, it's a nightmare. Whatever you've seen on the news and pictures in the newspapers cannot prepare you for seeing the real life building before your eyes, and just seeing the damage that's been done by that fire. It puts it in perspective, and it will it really drives the point home that that was a nightmare situation, and everyone here at Black Eyes TV, our hearts go out to you, and again, as we're going to get into, it's definitely a classic situation of the poor being left to it, and being set up and put in a situation that is very untidy. But we're going to get into that more. We got two guests today helping us talk about the situation. We got Gabs, who you might have seen from Talk with the Titans TV. He's one of the dynamic duo, or should I say trio, of Sarah and Calamel and Gabs. They've been taking on the Muslims, doing the discussions. He's joined the show today to offer his 2 comments. And we've also got with us Dean Oki from the Solution Room, who has also been on the show before. So we thank him for coming back. He's going to throw some perspective on the laws surrounding it. Where should we go from here? What should be the public response? What are the things that we should look for when it comes to moving forward, getting some sort of justice, compensation, however you want to go. This is a first part show. We're just going to touch on things lightly. Hopefully we'll have other people joining us through the show, but we definitely will be revisiting this subject matter. Terry, you want to say anything before we go over to the guests?
Yeah, just that we're going to have a lot more people come in, a lot of people that have been around the scenery. Like we have the Honourable Nico, or part of our team, and his mother lived around the block, and he's going to break down some more information in probably the part 2. We've got another guy that knows around with all the Muslim people that were involved. We've got people that are a part of the community that will be getting involved in this discussion, because we need to understand this discussion that a lot of these things are going to come. And if we're not prepared for these kind of things, we're, as poor people, will always be regurgitating and being put down and pushed out of London itself. You don't want London to turn into something like Switzerland, where they say if you don't have a job or you don't have money, you're out of the London city. Yeah. So for that, as I said, like, Dean, what is your perspective on things at this precise moment? Let's break it down.
Well, the government has worked hand in hand with the media, not only in a cover-up, but in creating propaganda. There's nobody better than Europeans at using sophisticated coded language. So when they say that there's an accusation that illegal materials were used, we know illegal materials were used because there's legislature about what materials can be used. And when you use materials for public buildings, it's got to be kite marked. And it wasn't. And they know this. So for your government to stand in front of you and send ministers on breakfast TV to have tears in their eyes and saying, why are you attacking us? This feels like a setup. That sounds like a big man going into a nursery having a debate with a 3-year-old. It's ridiculous. That's why the main point everybody needs to stay clear and focused is that you need a coroner's inquest. If you get hit by a bus on a high street, the coroner investigates that. If you're found dead in your flat, the coroner investigates that. The government isn't equipped to deal with those kind of investigations. And that's why you see protracted investigations that are inconclusive, that don't name anybody, that don't blame anybody, that don't shame anybody. Now, the nature of government contracts are that there are kickbacks. These people are awarded £1 million contracts, just like me and you. If you bring me in a room, I'm going to hand you back an envelope. This is real now. This is how business works. And so they can sever all of those ties. They want a government investigation. What everybody needs to be on point about is that there's no public investigation, that there's a coroner's investigation, the same people that investigate deaths factually, in a timely manner, and can conclusively give you points of blame and individuals. But another thing the community need to do, who were actually in that building need to do, is find a solicitor's office who's robust enough to make a private prosecution against the contracting firm that put up that cladding, and they need to make a civil suit against the same firm separately. So a private prosecution is totally separate from a civil case. They need a civil case because they need compensation. Their lives are ruined. Everything they had in the history. Think about your home and everything you have there. So they need to be
Yeah.
formally. Go ahead.
No, go on, continue, Dean. Yeah, go on.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, continue. There was an echo. I just wanted to make sure that we could hear you properly. Continue.
Oh, okay, sorry, brother. Yeah. So people need to be paid because it's their families. You're not talking about individuals. You're talking about families. And when you're talking about the fact that people passed away, breadwinners passed away, and they got children. They got people who rely on them. So they need a mass civil case, and they need a mass private prosecution. And that prosecution needs to involve counsellors. That prosecution needs to involve definitely the firm that put up the cladding.
That's a definite. Listen, when you're seeing this narrative, and in fact, before I even move over to another question, let me bring Gabs in. Gabs, unmute your mic for me. Like, you know, before we move on, what's your take on the situation? Because I know you've been seeing it. What's your perspective?
Yeah, man. Peace, everyone. Me personally, obviously the little bits that I have seen, because I don't really, when it comes to the news and stuff like that, I don't really get myself too involved, because over the years, the media portray the news in some weird ways. So over the years, I've kind of like slowly taken my eyes away from the TV and the news. So the little bits and pieces that I did hear and see, from my personal opinion, obviously my heart goes out to all the families and the victims' families out there. But I've seen it as what's the word? A plot by the government, yeah. To obviously get rid of a building which they knew that they wanted to convert, yeah, a council building. And the questions that I was saying to a few people was like, if you're the government, you already know what it's like with the hosted. If you're on benefits or you're part of the council and you want to go and you want to find a property to live or move your family, do you know how long it takes just to move one family into another house? So I was thinking with this whole with the whole incident with the tower, how is the government going to be able to move over, I don't know, let's just say rough 300 people? Think about it. That's a lot of families that they would have to rehome. Do you know what I mean? On top of the ones that they are struggling to rehome that were part of the council already. So I'm seeing it as this was an easy way to get rid of a bad situation. Do you see what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So the best thing that they could have done is obviously put that thing up in flames. This is just my opinion personally. This is what I think. I just seen it that they thought, you know what? You can't rehome most of these people. So if it goes up in flames, we're just gonna knock it down, refurb it, make it more luxury. Do you know what I mean? For the rich, and then the people who have lost their lives, obviously they're not gonna get rehomed, are they? But then the ones that are still alive, obviously there's a few of them. They'll just move them out the ends. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's kind of what I got into it from the little bits and pieces that I've heard and seen. I haven't gone into depth of it too much, so that's why I'm listening to you brothers to see you guys' point of view.
Definitely. And I think that's something that's worth noting that Dean touched on. Obviously, we've got families that have been broken now through loss of life, but we've also got breadwinners from already low income families are now out of the game, so to speak, as far as earning the regular money that they were getting before. And this has all began from them trying to bring up a building to the aesthetics, or making it more pretty for the rest of the area of, as we've all been told, the richer that are just across the way looking at this. And through this is what this problem has caused. So it's definitely a gentrification problem that we're seeing erupting all over the place in most of the ghetto or urbanized areas, if we want to call them that mostly low income Black Asian families live in. We're seeing this pattern of behavior where It's either you put up, shut up, get out, or live in the conditions that they seem to deem fit, which most of the time are not safe, you know, and are a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. One of the things that's bothered me about this situation, going back to you, Dean, is
Yeah.
the way that the media has covered it. I mean, yesterday I saw a report of residents going to number 10 Downing Street to meet with the PM. 13 random people, I don't know who they are. It didn't say that they were victims. It didn't say that they, you know, were from the tower directly. It just said residents directly. They marched solely and quickly, quietly into the number 10 Downing Street, and there was no word said. You know, speak to us about this propaganda narrative of how they've portrayed in the media, because again, it's very hard to keep track of what is going on. They're not reporting the deaths properly. You know, people are saying there's up to 150, 200 people dead. They're only saying there's up to 70. You know, speak to the people on what are the reasons why they behave in this way.
You're just getting an insight now into how they've always worked. Remember, this is their modus operandi. This is what they do all the time. It's only because there's so many eyeballs on this particular case that we're having these conversations. And let's not forget, we're having secret conversations in WhatsApp groups, on social media. So we're a lot more aware. There's nothing you can hide. For a start, when you put on a superficial fascia wrap around the building, and that takes precedence over a sprinkler system, you cannot open a public building without a fire code unless you're the local authority. Remember, planning permission comes from the local authority. So who needs to be held accountable is the local authority. But the local authority, remember, there are certain licenses that are given to media barons. So the media barons are only working hand in hand with their colleagues in the government. They can make a news blackout of anything. They did it last year when we walked from Brixton to Parliament. How can you have a total news blackout when over 10,000 people blocked out the street in the traffic? But it wasn't in one single paper. Not even the biggest London paper, the Metro. Not even the biggest London paper, the Evening Standard. You had a total news blackout on the reparations march. So if you can black out tens of thousands of people walking through the street, cutting off traffic for a whole day, even amongst London papers, you can create a news blackout on anything. So understand that. There is a code where they work hand in hand. And now that you know that you're powerless and voiceless, now you must make a decision about what you're going to do, how you're going to enable your media, how you're going to get your voice out there, how you're going to get your point of view out there. Because what we're doing now is going to be seen, but it's going to be seen marginally. And even when these things go viral, they're only going to be seen marginally. And you're competing with voices that are set out there to capture 60 million sets of ears and eyes. That's what you're up against. And they create a blackout as code. Sprinkler systems, illegal materials, and they're not having conclusive conversations on the front page in headlines.
Mm-hmm. You know the funniest thing is that, like, you know, the body that looks after the for the tenants, that what they call the TMO.
Yep.
It's funny how they could have 120 flats and they couldn't house one person. Do you get that, Dean?
But there's no desire to.
Exactly.
Because you know, listen, the first thing you do, if you take poor people who've never held £2,000 in their hand all at once, the ones who go to Bright Cover, who buy a £300 TV over the course of 3 years and pay £800. If you get those people £2,000, they're going to Luton and they're never getting back in London.
Of course. But this is why. That's why when you notice it, the first protocol for the people that lived around the block, they've done is that they said, okay, you can come back in, but we're gonna give you five grand each.
Yeah. Because that's a limitation on culpability, that 5 grand. But when you lose everything you own, you don't get 5 grand.
No way.
What's 5 grand? You're talking about real money now to people who are using critical thinking, not people who are desperate, not people who never had money in their life. When you're talking about critical thinking, you can't do anything with 5 grand. 5 grand's not money, not for your family now.
Exactly. So yeah, Rich, go on, fire away.
Well, again, you know, I don't think people really are taking into consideration the true impact of what it means to lose everything in a fire.
Absolutely.
You know, to lose a family member, to lose friends. I mean, you know, from the Muslim narrative, we've talked about many times that it was Ramadan. So there was a lot of people that were over people's houses, staying over for the night. You know, this is why there's a lot of confusion and why the numbers are definitely going to be higher, you know, than they are just from that side. The children that's passed within the fire, you know, there's a lot of mess that you cannot compensate monetary wise and expect people to just get on with, you know. But again, this shows you the swings and roundabouts of how they truly value a good percentage of, you know, the lives of people in London and around the world, because, you know, we see this agenda taking place all over the place, where cold calculated moves are being perpetrated to depopulate certain areas, to remove, you know, a great deal of people out of their spot without half of the paperwork. Because again, you know, as we talked about in the early stages, and as Gab mentioned, to move a certain amount of people requires a certain amount of paperwork, a trail. You have to be responsible for them. That's a big thing. So now you have a situation where, as you're saying, you can move people out of the area, which has been a narrative of certain people that they've been moved as far as Portsmouth, I've heard, and Peterborough. Yeah. And being offered things that, you know, on the surface are not acceptable. But again, because your whole life has been shaken up, you're in a position where you don't really have a voice to really speak out and say, no, I don't want this. Yes, I do. And again, as Dean's pointed out, with the help of the media, there is no real voice. There is no story. This is what's frustrated me the most in trying to talk about this narrative, because again, I'm seeing so many one-away hits of either, you know, victims talking about something that's actually happened, which is an emotionally driven piece, or you see, you know, a random entity of an official somehow talking about some sort of responsibility factor. And again, I want to deal with this as well, Dean. This whole people resigning from local council suddenly and talking about, you know, they're removing themselves to not be an obstruction from the process. Talk to us about that and the movement of the corporations and what that means as far as personal culpability, as opposed to you only having a faceless corporation now to bring charges. Talk to us about that strategy that you're seeing play out.
Yeah, but they're running away from culpability. If you, the minute they leave that position, remember, all paperwork can disappear as well. This is why you need the coroner's office to go in and secure every piece of evidence that is related to the case. How can you have the people that were involved with the actual construction resign from their jobs because they are personally culpable in a criminal case because they're aware that materials weren't legal for construction in the UK? This is legislation now. This is a country. There's no such thing as a river without banks. And you live in a country with more legislation than most. And when it comes to building materials, this country has kite marks. There are measures and checks to protect the people. And the only people who can override that are government. The reason you're seeing such a whitewash, the reason you're seeing everybody act confused, like Michael Gove when he went on Breakfast TV, is because they know in order for that to be circumvented, somebody has to fast track it and give their permission. So if you're spending this amount of money on private corporations, why wouldn't you have put the sprinklers in place? This is, you know, and there's no mistakes that can be made in a local authority for this reason. They've got something that is called local strategy. The local strategy is a monthly communication meeting between the police, the education system, so all schools, the local authority, the probation office. They all have a major consultation every month, and it's called the local strategy. There's nothing that isn't spoken about. There's nothing that isn't known. So when they do these things, there's a clear route back to who is culpable. So if you resign, you can go anywhere and disassociate yourself from prosecution, because prosecution is the only thing that you're looking. And then if somebody puts a civil case on you, that's a wrap. They can take your house.
Yeah.
There's no way to protect yourself. So they're resigning, but they'll be looked after.
Yeah.
And you could move from one borough's job to another local authority, as long as you're not in that one when it's being investigated. And people need to control this now. That's why they need solicitors to jump in right now, or it's going to be too late.
Yeah, evidence will be lost. Yeah.
And in my perspective, like, what do you think, not in total, like, I don't know, Richie, but like the people themselves and their mindset? Because you know, like how a lot of people thrive off what's in their environment and they feed off it. What is your perspective of the mindset of the people at this precise moment?
Well, again, you know, let me take the moment to just say because I'm looking at the chat room, and you know, we've got certain American people in there. Big up to them. Big up to all our people across the water. Big up to Titans TV tuned in. And a lot of people are just asking me, or some of our American viewers, just to go over what's happened. For anyone who doesn't know, yeah, or who's not from this country, there was a tower block in West London that caught fire, and due to the outside cladding or outer decoration, you might as well say, that they added to the building to make it more a nicer view for the richer folks, it caught fire in a crazy type of way on the outside of the building, which led to anybody from a certain height in the building, I think you might as well say 15th floor and above, pretty much could not get out. There was no proper fire checks, as our guest Dean Oki spoke about, done on the building, and basically a whole load of people lost their lives. So based on that, just to bring anyone who didn't know up to speed, the mindset of the people, from what I've seen, is upset, angry, and yet they've come together in great waves. And this is something that's disturbed my aura as well. Not in the fact that they've come together, but in the fact that everybody has done the government's job for them. Yeah, everybody has come together, whether you're Muslim, whether you're black, you know, the local area has galvanized, whether you're white, yeah, and, you know, inundated the area with donations, with money, with goods, yeah, and this is what's caused the outrage, because within all of this that's going on, there has been such a minimal attempt from the council or the government to do or help coordinate any of these efforts. So when we talk about the mind state of the people, you know, it's been a cold, hard slap in the face, I think, for the majority of people in recognizing that it's only them. And again, this has happened just after an election. So it's been funny talking with some of my people them about voting and these kind of issues. And then we arrive at a tragedy like this now. And where's your government that you voted for? Where's the policies kicking in for the poor? You know, everyone right now is talking about this Corbyn guy. You know, and it all looks good on camera. You know, he's down there, he's shouting the rights, but, you know, will it last? Where's it gonna go? You know, and this is the worrying part, and I think the bigger discussion that needs to happen. Because again, is this gonna just fade into the political background, as it already is? Because we know, you know, there's been the Finsbury Park attack. We've had several other so-called terrorist incidents now around the world. So already this Grenfell fire is taking a back seat to certain things. So again, moving forward, I don't know what the mind state for the people in general needs to be. That's something that is definitely an open forum discussion that a lot of people need to join in. And hopefully, you know, as I said, we'll be bringing in other people to help expand on that. But again, Dean or Gabs, if you're still there, if you have anything to add, like, please talk to the people about that. Because I you know, politically, I don't have any faith. So I don't know where you stand, Dean, when it comes to that side of it. Do you have any sort of stock in that side becoming?
Well, you got to trust everybody to be who they are. And the only reason people move into politics is for advancement. Remember, you become a gatekeeper when you move into politics. And when you're a gatekeeper, you have access to resources. You're going to get grease first. Let's not pretend. So when we're talking about trusting them, you must trust everybody to be who you are. We got to look at the naivety around the word trust. I trust every single man, woman, and child I know to be who they are based on their nature. So what we got to start doing in terms of the residents, they're going to be angry. They're going to be confused. Confusion is huge. So the first thing you've got to do is get the opinions of lay people out of the way. You need professionals on the ground. So the first people you need, we're talking about measures and checks now, is a solicitor's office robust enough to carry a mass case on behalf of the families. Because the first thing that solicitor's office is going to do is go and lock down all evidence. The first thing the solicitor's office is going to do is make sure the coroner's office is engaged. Too many lay people are talking about opinions. My opinion don't add up to a hill of beans because you cannot legislate my opinion. If I tell you about my personal thoughts, it's irrelevant. We got to get lay people representing the families out of the way. Because lay people are doing exactly the same as politicians. It's all well me sitting here and talking about what I think and what I believe. But the most important thing is that professionals who are proficient in their field represent these families and are seeking justice on their behalf and are seeking payments on their behalf. Because if I'm there and I lost my passport, I've lost my driving license, I've lost my home, I've lost all evidence of qualifications that I've collected in my life. Forget about my incidentals like family pictures. I may have lost children and people's lives. They need to be compensated for that. So all of the raft of professionals that the government should have been throwing in there, psychologists to help the families deal with the tragedy that they just experienced. Can you imagine trying to get your family out of a tower block that's burning and you're totally blind? We can't even conceive what these people have been through. The ones who did actually survive. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's as I'm saying, it's like when you have what I didn't really understand. What you just said was, how could you have elderlies on the 20th floor that could never even if the building was shaking or it was something else or an emergency? How do you get them off from that 20th floor and above all the way down to the ground? So it's like they've got loads of poor people in there where they've just locked them there and forgotten about them. You know, because
poor people don't count. Remember the history of this country. This is a country of serfs and landowners. Either you were a landowner and baron, or you toiled the land. And when you got into debt, you were a serf. You were a legal slave. Remember, long before they come and kidnap we, you know, they were versed in this thing. Long time. None of this is new. So this little 60-year period of believing there's a middle class who are 3 paychecks from being homeless has never existed. The only reason there was a perception of a middle class is because now you don't go to Bognor Regis on holiday, you can jump on a plane. That is the entire superficial illusion of a middle class. This country was developed and established and built from being serfs and landowners. Slavery exponentially grew the wealth of the country, but this is the origins of the country, serfs and landowners. So when you have a catch net that people believe, that's expensive to invest in. And it's the wealthy that have to create that catch net. So what do? You put the people in a tower, you paint it a pretty color, and you forget about them. It's simply done.
Yeah. I get that.
Can I say something? Yeah. I was going to say something on what the brother said earlier, which is kind of what I see happening, which I always see happening anyway, when big chaos happens in the media and in the news and in the world, is that yeah, I can see that the whole incident with the tower is slowly starting to get pushed to the back, because you know the next big thing that's happening in the news, I think it's the young black boy that was killed by the police. Yeah, all of a sudden, it's funny how that come out all of a sudden, that incident happened, and it's like that's now slowly taking a bit more. It's getting more of a spotlight, should I say? Do you know what I mean? And this play always happens. I've noticed it. There's always some sort of patterns. When something happens where it's major, like a couple of days or maybe like a week or something later, something else will happen, which will slowly start to take away the attention from the main event. Do you know what I mean?
That's it.
And this is stuff that's happened with the government, like time after time after time. So to me personally, I see this as it's nothing new to me. It's not. I don't get shocked anymore. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, now if we're all gazelles, are we gonna say to a pack of lion, "Why do you always eat us? Why are you always chasing us?" But the lion's gonna go to the gazelle, "But bro, this is my nature. This is all I know. All I know is to keep chasing you and hunting you. You can't now stop and ask me questions saying, why am I hunting you?" I see the government. I see the government as the lions, and we're the gazelles. We keep trying to ask them questions, but we need to start realizing this is just what they are, and this is what they do. So the next step, like what you were saying, Terry, is what do we do next? Because, do you know what I mean? These things are going to keep happening and happening and happening. Say because people are gonna lose lives along the way, but what is it that we want to do? Because if we say the brother was saying about people need to go and speak for these people, get lawyers and talk, but these people are gonna overthrow the government, like you're gonna go into court or something and try and sue these people. Come on, we know that ain't gonna come off this. We know this. So the next step is, what are we gonna do? Is it a thing now where we just leave? Do you know what I mean? A mass exodus and just leave the place? What do we encourage people to do? Because it's either people are gonna stay poor and people are gonna die and just stay in the same system, the same rat race, the same trap going round and round in circles. Do you know what I mean?
No, I feel you.
But yeah, that, I get that as well, because you know, I always say, like themes in it, we have to go into it much more deeper and much more darker to actually see a light out of it. But the thing is that when you have a certain people or a certain term where their time is too close to an end, you're going to find problems where it might be time up. But if we're not organized or we're not working as a form of collective, we're only going to repeat what we repeated straight beforehand, before the event actually happened.
Yeah.
No,
Don't have any form of think tank of people coming together. And I don't see where we're going to motivate or push ourselves, because we got to have a sort of an elite for us to be able to. So, Rich, are you there, Rich?
Yeah, I'm there, brother.
Okay. So, yeah. So I hear what you're saying, Gab. That sometimes we see things and it's a deja vu. Everything's repeating itself.
Yeah.
You know, and we have to kind of know what the solutions are. We know everything that's been put in us. We keep on repeating this, but we always want to rely on what the government's doing. But we're not relying on what we need to do. Because as I always say, if we watch, it's like a race, 100 meters race, and we're watching Usain Bolt, and we're always trying to see if we can beat him.
Yeah.
But the problem is, he's winning, as in, like we say, 500 years ahead. We can't keep up with them people. Before
your microphone's breaking up, brother.
Then we catch him up. You know?
You're breaking up, brother.
What is your perspective on this thing on maneuvering? Am I breaking up?
Yeah.
It's breaking up at the end, Terry.
But what I will say, you're 100% right on everything that you asserted. And Gabs, that point you brought up about the gazelles, you're 100% right. The whole reason I had the impetus for the solution room and pulling key professionals together, our talented 10%, is to set up institutions. Now, when you talk about the story fading, that's natural. That's the nature of things. You know, something's going to happen next week and it's going to fade. That isn't the problem. The problem was the representation of the story based on facts from the beginning. Because you could have concluded that whole story within the first 3 days factually, and people would have known the magnitude of the horror. But because the papers and the television channels and the media colluded, they actually hid that. And they subdued what everybody would have actually realized, which is that 160 plus people died. And that there were no measures and checks for safety. And that this is actually happened all over the country. So what we do, and the reason I speak as passionately as I speak, is we need to create the institutions. And it's happening now because we have charities. And now we're looking in April, the next taxable April, that taxable pound out of the economy to invest in these charities so that we can establish these institutions. One of them is, I'm not going to mention the charities, because there's a way that they can stifle the charities before these things happen.
Yeah.
But what I will say, I have to catch myself for my own security. But what I will say is that when you think of an anti-defamation league that the Eastern Europeans in Hackney or Tottenham have, or in the States, it's an organization that represents them when anybody at the media comes at them, when anybody in public office comes at them, when anybody attacks them. So what we're doing is collating global African-owned media so that when a PR letter goes out from the organization, it hits day and date, and you're targeting an individual. So if this was something around black families and you saw Michael Gove go and misrepresent facts on breakfast television, having the position that he holds, day and day, you would have every single African-owned press attack him. They've never dealt with something like that because we've lacked the organization. But now we're organizing, we're putting those things into place, and we know how to pay for it as well with our taxable income. And this is only working in the way that the 1% do, because that's how Eastern Europeans establish themselves. Take a step down to Clacton. Look at the ownership of commercial buildings. And it's beautiful. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think they've done exactly the correct thing to do for themselves, for self-preservation, and for their families. But I think we need to duplicate it. And that's only going to come off the back of institution building. Because when we've built the institutions to protect us, you know, we're not going to ask questions. The first time any of those ministers gets a word, we are going to come with our solicitor. We're lawyering up with robust firms. We're going directly to the coroner's office and we're telling them what's going to happen. And we've got 1,000 people on our side. And then when they get lemon, you bring in the rest of the nation because you're organized. You got phone trees where you can hammer their front desks with messages. You can hammer them with physical bodies outside their building. You can't tell us a meeting is cancelled. We'll never ask you. We come there with leadership, which is organized. You hammer their servers with emails because you're organized. So we're not asking anymore. And you said the correct thing with think tanks. Think tanks aren't for intellectual masturbation. It's to lobby and organize all the correct individuals who are proficient in their field to attack the correct establishment. Because when you don't attack, if you're walking and you're attacking me, and I know your joint goes that way, I'm going to kick it the other way and break your leg. So you must attack the correct part of the body. And we're not doing that. We speak as lay people with a lot of passion. And you know what I would do? I own the business. And a man might come to me for a refund. Now, he may or may not know his consumer rights. If I'm a bad guy, do you know what I'm going to do while this man is speaking his lay speak? And then the man is going to say, well, I want a refund. I say, King, this thing ain't about emotions. This is a business and you don't know where you talk. So breeze. And you know what they're doing? That's what they're doing. Jog on, son. Go on, jog on. Because we speak as lay people. We need the correct institutions built by us, built for us. So let's come away from the wider conversation of community about Grenfell. This is self-preservation for us as a people. Similarly, as you mentioned, the young man who was murdered by police. And then there's confusion around the coroner's office saying the police aren't the reason a young, healthy man is dead. So we need our own measures and checks for our community to represent our numbers within any tragedy.
That's a definite. Listen, I completely agree with that sentiment. I personally, you know, hope, one of the things I hope is that, you know, the community action that's had to happen naturally just to take care of the victims and the people that's been affected by this Grenfell Tower continues on in a wider capacity.
Absolutely. That was beautiful.
It's shown the need for a community. And again, even through this, I've witnessed, obviously, you know, the Train community come together, the Muslim community come together, and the Black community come together. But again, based on what you've just outlined about there not being certain organizations and institutions to speak or represent the bigger or wider community, especially
conversation,
that's where the problems come in as well. Because obviously,
but one thing I will say, not to cut you, is that the response from the Black community was immediate, it was huge, and it was selfless.
Definitely.
Black people came and gave the next day. They were down first thing in the morning and they were selfless.
Definitely.
People put in the amount of hours that they will put in their career to go and respond to that. They put their hand in their pocket and they went and bought food. But when it comes down to representation as a community, and speaking as a single voice, we don't have that. Absolutely correct.
Yeah, definitely. And this is where we need to come as a community first before we can join up with anyone else, because we all work as an individual. Everyone's got their little empire, everyone's got their little money here and there. But when it comes to us coming together and unifying ourselves, we have a big, massive problem with it. And it will keep on repeating itself because it's a kind of a form of divide and conquer.
Yeah.
So if we're going to keep on doing this, we're just going to be we're going to be the small people in the small corner. No matter how much money you are, you're still going to be pushed into the poor areas. So you can have £1 million and they'll still put you in a block of flats, regardless. Because we're class individuals. We're not working together. We're not pushing together. You know, as I said, you could be a Muslim, you could be a Christian, you could be whatever. We need to leave our religion at home. We need to start to focus on our culture and our race as people, so that then we can able to move out of these lines then and work with others, like the people in America, bridging the gap, like people in Africa, like people in the Caribbean, wherever our people are. Then we can now say, you know what, we're one big family. And then we can reason and negotiate with these people that are not from our race. But if we don't have no power, they will always overcome us.
But
so
you know what, to be fair, it's happening.
Of course.
The sense of the community is there. There are many times in my life where I've said there's no community. But I can't say that, knowing what I know and seeing what I've seen with my eye. What the community lacks is organization, formal organization and representation. But to be fair, that spiritual connect is there, brother. We are more consciously connected than we've been at any time in history, and Ethernet has got a lot to do with that. How many times have you had to delete materials from your phone, group chats? Look at the levels of communication we're having globally. There's no secret to us now. You will be there in whatever company and there's a little black section and they're communicating and there's something the little black section's doing and the white people, what are they doing? We're all connected. There's nothing that we don't know about us, but it doesn't matter what we know if we're not represented in the correct way. And there's a correct and an incorrect way to do everything, because the world is governed by laws. A law is an absolute. It's not an intangible. It's not a theory. It's an absolute. So because we're aware of that, we must now start to conduct ourselves with absolutes. So to give it clarity, when we're talking about the community now, what we are not doing is working with absolutes. We do things in a very informal way, which at the end of the day, what we do know is we're going to be all right on the night. But being all right on the night isn't what it's about, because you can't build wealth of a being all right on the night. The four of us would rather be in a studio, but guess what? It was all right on the night, wasn't it?
That's all. That's all. I feel you.
Yeah.
And this is what I was talking about, trading on grassroots. Because if you actually understand, let's say in the forms of Sankofa, we go back past and understand that us as a black race, we were traders.
Yes,
regardless of anything else. So if we can trade from the smallest thing, then we can go to the biggest thing and be successful. Like you get these kids on the street, they will out there and say, yeah, I want to be the drugs dealer. I want to sell this and I sell that. All you have to do is replace the drugs, put the share bar in, or put the marina in, or come to Dean and check him and ask him, can I take some suits to sell? It's as simple as that.
Also, let's not.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
You're breaking up a little bit, but we got
Am I cutting out?
You are cutting out.
He was hearing you.
Yeah.
But we got the gist.
Yeah.
Let's not now look at these generations who are involved in criminality and judge them.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that I say this,
Exactly.
because Europeans built wealth from illegitimate gain and did what? Legitimized it for generational wealth. How can you sell opium to other nations when it's illegal in your nation and gain mass wealth off of that and go to war for that and then judge people who sell drugs? So I'm not advocating people who sell drugs. I'm not chastising people that sell drugs, because we're speaking factually now. But what they should be aware of is that they can legitimize and underpin their communities and make themselves have generational wealth and convert that into legitimate incomes. Because there are masses of wealth that end up in Europeans' hands. Listen, if drug money is so horrible that they confiscate it and they confiscate all of the proceeds, do we know where any of that train goes? Where does that end up?
Come on.
We have no idea. So money is money. Let's agree. However, selling drugs is wrong and illegitimate gain is wrong. But many a European built their wealth and didn't feel any way to display it. That's how the Kennedys ended up where they are. And that's how many have ended up where they are.
Well, listen, I think the key response to that, yeah, and again, this is a whole nother discussion.
Absolutely.
Is how to obviously move forward in this arena that we find ourselves in the West without acting like the very beast that we're trying to separate ourselves from, innit? And this is the swings and roundabouts of it. Obviously, we know there's certain things that have been put in place to, you know, offset us, red herrings to throw us off of true wealth and those kind of angles. But there's a way to achieve these measures without losing ourselves in it as a spiritual people, as a Kemetic people. I'm going to use them terms there for Gabs because he knows what I'm talking. Yeah. And again, this is a big narrative that needs to be highlighted, because I think as Black people, we're natural healers. But again, we're finding ourselves in this mad warlike situation. And, you know, I always have this discussion with my people when we start to talk about how you can be in this environment. And a lot of people tend to say, you know, while we're here, we can put this aside and we can, you know, it's okay to be like this because we're being treated like this. And, you know, for me, that's a slippery slope where you kind of run the risk of losing who you really are spiritually, morally. You understand? Like, and as we've
lost it, brother. We've lost it because we put the onus on those outside of us. The minute we do that, look at when you're talking about generations now, every single nation on earth has their form of partner, right? When Caribbeans came from the Windrush generation, they had partners and they got houses. Why did they stop? Because we've got to introduce a concept now that we're overlooking, is that human nature seeks approval. And because we seek approval in somebody else's house, we're behind. Now, when it was recognized that we had income, they gave us banks. And we went from getting houses to not getting houses. What was the debt level from gaining a property out of a partner? What was the debt level? I'll wait. There you go. Crickets.
That's all.
Crickets. So now when you go to a bank, your debt level is life servitude, right? There you go. If you even fit the criteria to get a mortgage.
In the first place.
In the first place. So the point being is, now you're having an interesting conversation about dealing with our Kemetic origins. And when you talk about Sankofa, when we look at the slavery remembrance that's coming up on the 20th of August, these are the concepts that we need to push for universal adoption. And even the wearing of the Sankofa bird, because that's our poppy. When I see brothers and sisters wearing poppies, I say, you don't know about the Crimean War? And all of these things. They never give this man a broom to sweep the street. They give the man a bucky.
Yeah.
Don't you know about these things where the man was sent to slaughter you and steal your resources and then come back and present propaganda in order to increase their wealth exponentially? So when you, me, and every one of us is on this single voice of what we universally adopt through our institutions, that's what I'm talking about in organization.
Yeah.
Then we're powerful. You look at My African Family, who is a charity, who is set up to invest in us as a people and in our institutions. You are supposed to, as a business, which is what the Eastern Europeans do in Hackney and Tottenham, say, we are nobody. I made 100 grand in profit this year. 20% of that is corporate tax. I'm donating 20 quid to that charity. And this isn't a thing where I ask or I think about it. It's universal.
Yeah.
Like, I know when I call my chartered accountant, I get the form and I donate 20 quid to that organization. And then what you see off the back through that year is X amount of buildings have been bought and converted into community buildings. Now that individual is an investor in community, where they're recognized by their community as an investor in community, right? These are the institutions that we should be talking about now. That's organization. Yes, sir.
Gabs.
Yeah,
Talk to
yeah.
us.
Yeah, this is
Hold
a
on,
nice
let me
field.
turn up your mic, Gabs.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I said this is a nice little topic that we're getting into now, because I have some strong points when it comes to this, because my thing is this, yeah, is at the end of the day, yeah, we're still kidnapped victims in it.
Absolutely.
And being in kidnapped land, I don't understand why we seem to think that it's okay to build ourselves up in the kidnapped land. Do you understand what I'm saying? We've been brought over to a place, we've been brought over to a land that's not ours. And it's like now, it's like we're trying to find ways to build up ourselves in that kidnapped land, which to me doesn't make any sense. Hold on a second. Sir. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, because like we said, there's a lot of chaos that happens that goes on with our mindset being in this kidnapped land. It's like you see what happens when you take the animals out their habitat and you bring them into the zoo. They act crazy. Do you see what I'm saying? Because they're not in their right environment. They're not in their right environment. They're not in their right state of mind. So my thing is this. This is what I've been trying to mention to people is why don't we as a black people that's over here saying that we see what's happening to us day after day, year after year in this kidnapped land? Why are we not thinking of ways to unite together and do what we want to do back in our homelands? It's like we never get into this convo. Everybody always wants to build up stuff over here. Why are we not trying to go back there where the land is cheap? Do you know what I mean? You can get maybe what? Remember, let's go back to that state of mind of tribes looking after each other and communities. That's how we used to build it back in the day. If you got 20, 30 families chipping in some money into a big basket, yeah, putting that money together, going back home, investing in some land, you can build yourself a nice complex and start your families over there. But the thing is, it's like we don't seem to want to leave this kidnapped land.
Stockholm.
Even though we're free, but it's like we're not free. We want to stay here. I don't know what it is. It's like when you go to that friend's house that's got all the games and your mom's it's time to come home and you're like, oh man, I don't want to go home. My house is boring. We don't want to go home. Do you know what I mean? And it's us being in these Western lands here that's thriving their communities, because we're the ones that's pushing the styles. We're the one that's pushing all these things. We're the consumers. We're buying all the foods. We're buying all the hair products. All these things are us. Do you know what I mean? The music industry, all of it. Fashion. So what I just don't understand is why are we not doing this back home?
And
do you know what I mean? People will welcome you back home with open arms. So,
and it doesn't, for all you just said, without the organization and without the institutions, it can't happen. Because you know what you did? You touched on in the beginning. You touched on it at a macro level.
Yeah.
Look at the GRENFELL Tower, and you talked about moving those people and organizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. 500 individuals. We are 2 million, King.
Yeah.
And we still lack organization. So if we don't invest in that, we're going to be having this exact conversation in a decade's time. But it's not going to be as pretty as this one. And we may not be able to afford to broadcast it. We have to organize. You see, the nation doing something now that's beautiful. They've gone and done this in the Caribbean. They've purchased land and they're building complexes. Yeah. So as we see the seeds of these kind of initiatives, we're supposed to duplicate them. We're supposed to do this in Ghana, where you see there's so much growth. Because remember, the West is really experienced as much growth as it can, because it's come to a precipice where now the snake has eaten so much and there's nothing left to eat but the snake's tail. And and you're right, if we stay here long enough, we're going to see this snake up to its waist when it's yamming, because it's got to start eating itself now.
Yeah.
But we're going to be the first fodder. So what we do need to do at this time and point is get organized. The first thing we have to do is extract our tax from this nation. You see, when we can have centers where we have communication, like you said, with Africans, African Americans, Africans in any part of the diaspora, we can organize. We can have our own chambers of commerce where we are sending out our people to do trade there on trade missions, and having people come here on trade missions because we have economics. So now what we're doing, we're saying if we got real bread now, we got somewhere for them people to stay, where we're not ashamed. We're not talking about holding up the man in our room, because we clap property here. But when you have property here, you can get loans against your property here, and you can purchase property anywhere. Now remember, when I'm talking about charity now, and I'm talking about tax, there's certain legislation that goes against that, because I have known this lifestyle where we can do 419, but we can't just take tax money and buy properties abroad, unless there is legislature to deal with that. But what we do need to do is get organized to make us be the most effective and proficient that we can be, and then we can do whatever we like, brother. So when you're talking about those initiatives, we create those privately.
Yeah, I want to say something as well, and this is why, especially on the Titans TV show, was me, Kalam Sara, was slowly trying to touch back on this whole getting our foundation level, because I even just see in one of the comments there, one of the brothers even said, "Where's home?" Like things like that.
Absolutely. If you're kidnapped,
yeah, you see what I'm saying? And that's because of that foundation that we've lost. You know what I mean? We're not dealing with cultures, we're dealing with other people's cultures and their belief systems. So this is why we're slowly, I think the only way that unity in that community is going to happen is once we slowly start to get rid of other people's cultures and start dealing with our own. Do you see what I'm saying? Because look, it's not even that hard, because where I live, there's a lot of Polish here. Polish have come over here. I've seen Polish families come over here, and within a year, their families have opened up supermarket chains all over the place. Do you know what I mean? Because they understand their history and their culture and what they need to do. The Chinese do the same thing. The Jews do the same thing. But we're the only ones that seem to be sitting there. Like we would, like for instance, like let's take our black brothers that's in Islam and stuff like that. When they take that pilgrimage of going to do Hajj, do you know how much money they're putting into the Saudi government there? How much? Do you know what I mean? But that's all benefiting that culture and that land over there. Do you see what I'm saying? But they don't see it like that. They see it as this is their religion, but they're not realizing they're actually thriving that culture in that land. Do you know?
Absolutely.
How many millions of people go there yearly? Do you see what I'm saying? And that's why they're able to thrive and build up the stuff they can do over there. But we don't have that because our people have been stripped, like I said. kidnap victims, we don't know ourselves. We don't know our foundations. Look, we don't know where we're from. The brother's like, where do we go? Where's home? Do you know what I mean? But when you
are for,
yeah,
because you know what an institution would do.
No, this will
Sorry, go ahead, brother.
No, I was going to say, the last thing I was going to say, if the brother's saying where's home, if you've lost home, someone that's lost home is what? It's called a what?
Homeless.
All right, then. So that's what it is. That's what it is. We're beggars and we're homeless. We're homeless people. That's what we are now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Listen, guys. I need to take this moment, to stress to everybody that's watching and tuning in. Thank you for supporting the show so far. You get me? Thank you to my guests for chopping it up on these subject matters. And again, when we're talking about having knowledge of self and restoring the culture, that's what we aim to do here at Black Eyes TV7. Give you back certain cultural points that you need to absorb, that you need to go away and do further research on, so you can bolster what you already have in today's society. You get me? So you can run the Sankofa and bring back from the past. Same thing with Gabs on Titans TV. As I said, big up to Callum as well. Big up to Sarah. Yeah, bringing the Kemetic corner. Again, reinstilling the balance of which so many of our people have lost. And it's this everyday balance and loss of it which is causing the indecision, which is causing the bad decision, which is causing the lack of organization and lack of institutions, as Dean has pointed out, for our community on a whole. And again, this is the key points that we have to take away from this, that we have to start to teach our children. And again, remember, society starts off with your household. Then it extends to the village, then to the town, then to the city, and so on and so forth, until we have the wider picture. But it's got to start indoors. So again, we cannot stress this enough, which I think everybody on the platform is in sync with, that having knowledge of your culture is number one point of call to move forward when it comes to the finances, when it comes to all the other angles and idiosyncrasies of modern day society and living. It's very key. And as we've already pointed out as well, every other group out there, cultural group, because they haven't gone through what we've gone through, the dissemination of our language, etc., they move a lot more decisive when it comes to these things. So that has to be the key factor, that we restore these points in our culture, language, geography, you understand, cultural customs, to bolster what we're trying to do in our everyday life, in our work, in our jobs, in our creativity processes. This is the key element. Terry, you've been quiet for a while.
I wanted to quickly share something on the screen. Let me see if I can do it for tomorrow's event. I don't know if you lot can see it. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Is it come up on the screen?
It's on the screen,
Yeah. Hold on. Did it come on?
There it is. Yeah. It was there for a second.
Okay, let me do it again one more time. Let me get this thing in perspective. Because we have another show, which we're, as I say to you, by building. Hold on, if I can find it. Hold on.
While Terry's finding that.
Yeah,
the show tomorrow that we're going to be having is with a full female troupe. Our sisters from across the water who are heavily into finances and relationships. So we're going to be dealing with hustle, business, and relationships, their correlation.
Has it come up now? Has it come up?
There it is.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, we got it. So it'll be at 10 p.m. tomorrow and 5 p.m. American time, which we're going to have at least, say, 9 to 10 females coming to talk about their way of how they deal with relationships and business, because with this is how we're able to bridge the gap between the USA and the UK, because we need to do this with our people around the world. Because going to unite, we have to understand each other. So now, Rich, you can get back to that, back to what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Again, tomorrow's show speaks to the very point. Yeah, if we don't sort out our own households, you know, if we don't sort out the way we deal with each other, then on a greater scale, we will never nation build. We will never get those institutions in the way that we're seeing them form in our mind's eye. They will never come to fruition, true fruition, if we don't, you know, adopt these relationships in our own personal spectrum and scope before we even think about the wider community. And again, it can't always, going right back to the Grenfell Tower, you know, it's great that we've seen the community come together under this pressure, but again, we don't always want to be doing it under
reacting.
That's it, reacting rather than
responding.
Those are the words right there from our brothers. Yeah, we have to be punch.
And this is why on the 16th of July, 2 p.m. sharp, not 2:30, not 3 o'clock, not 2 p.m. sharp. We don't want to be tarnished with the time that we always say black people do. So I need people to come with their banners, with their t-shirts, with their identifications, and all sort that represent them, their business, their organization, their family, to make a massive photograph, like what Marcus Garvey's wife did when she got all the top leaders. Because this picture is what we're going to show our great-grandchildren, our great-great-great-grandchildren, a legacy of unity on the 16th at 2 p.m. So please, people, come down with your shipload. Let's make a movement behind the embankment and show people that we have a massive community and we can work together. That's what we need. And this is the first step to us moving forward. Let's stop the talking and let's do the now. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Dean.
Yeah. I was going to say, Gap made a really interesting point that he was saying before. And bring it down to its essence. The same thing Rich said is, if it doesn't happen in your house, it's not happening. And that's the key place we got to look. How we educating our children, the relationship we have with the woman. These are the key things. And we need to formalize them. That's why now one of the most important things we can do is create a universal African Caribbean educational curriculum. Because what we do know from legislation is that we can't open a school. And so I don't care about the language. If we submit it as a Church of England school and all the teachers are black and it's the Garvey Academy and we're teaching an African curriculum, then Europeans ain't going to send their children to that school. No. We need to start getting on code now, and we need to start operating in a particular way that benefits us. But that curriculum is being put together right now. And everybody who is an educator, who has any opinions on it and any authority, needs to just jump on board, because we are capable of creating a universal African curriculum that has citizenship components that can turn out emotionally and financially literate children who are citizens, who protect each other, who understand that they're a nation because of who they are, and understand the nature of them being kidnapped as well. That they don't have any particular unity to one island or country or boat stop or religion, but the fact that they're African people makes them one. That's what we. That's one of the most important things that we need to do, because when you start that from 3 to 17 years old, there's no way our young men can be stabbing each other.
Yeah.
Going back to what Manhood Academy says, I'm my brother's keeper and my sister's protector. You cannot hear that every day from 3 years old and hug your brothers and sisters and be surrounded by them and not know them.
One thing I will say on that though, yeah, is I hear what you're saying and it makes sense, yeah, but I still don't get why we have to do that in this land, because me personally,
we're here, brother. We're here.
Oh, because we're here, but
we're
it's
here,
like this, yeah.
There's 2
it's like this,
million of us. We can't pick up and fly tomorrow. We ain't got the logistics. We have to do it here. Because if we don't, we won't get a mindset to fly out.
I hear what you're saying, yeah, but it's like this, yeah. You guys have seen the war. When an invading army goes to another land and they're getting beaten, what do? They retreat. Where do they retreat back to? They retreat back home. You retreat back home. You to mend your wounds, fix yourself up, build up your tactics until you come back again in it. But what I'm trying to say is, we ain't leaving and trying to go back home and fix our wounds and mend it. That's the only place where it's going to happen. The more we stay in the war zone, and try to fix, how are you going to try and fix something in war zone, in chaos?
But Gab, let me ask you a question, Gab. Quick.
Yeah.
What happens to the prisoners of war?
Of war?
What happens to the prisoners of war?
Oh, the victims.
The prisoners of war.
They died. The prisoners died.
You know the horrible thing about kidnapped people? We got so much stuff. Not even just the neuroses that we have, the psychological neuroses, but the fact that we don't have any concept of home. The fact that you have to start again with people. You know the funny thing? Just imagine we are prisoners of war now and we're in a camp. You know that there's a certain set of people in that place where we have forgotten talk in secret in the corner to organize. We can't even talk amongst the whole of them because they will sabotage our efforts. That's what we're dealing with, brother. So, you know the funny thing, like what you're saying about, well, why do that when we can fly? Knowing the logistics. You know the funny thing I always say about having a business? People say, well, why train them when they might leave? I say, well, there's another concept, you know. Train them because they might stay. And when it comes to us, we are here, brother. How long have you been there? As much as you've flown out and you are aware of what is in the Gambia, in Ghana, and you could go across the nations that are stable. But then you know what happens when you land there? That I'm telling you, the people will come from here and go to the Gambia and be exactly the same, bringing no skills, bringing no trade, bringing no intellect, and be in the Gambia as they are here. We need to do something to prepare us to be proficient and useful and beneficial, because we can't just turn up and happen having no concept of culture, no citizenship and respect. Imagine you go into a certain country now. Let's go to the extreme. You go into Nigeria and you're this 16-year-old and you go into the marketplace and you're going to tell a big man to go join the Foreign Office. They're going to beat you to a pulp. You think any Niger is going to stand for that?
Listen, I think
they're going to take this 16-year-old and beat him with a stick.
Dean.
Yes, sir.
I think this is the thing, and this is to Gabs as well. I think this is where the great awakening needs to occur, innit?
Yes.
Because again, I'm hearing where Dean's coming from, and I'm also feeling you 100%.
Absolutely.
Because I don't subscribe to this country. I don't think it's going to ultimately give us anything that we're ultimately looking for. If you look at the political history and just the history of the country, there's always a revolution. As man said, they're going to turn on, they are turning on their own people.
But this is the one country that's never had a revolution.
Well,
You can talk about Cromwell, but it wasn't a revolution, bro.
Well, this is what I'm saying. But you still had a shift of, like, globally in every country where it comes to a point where, you know, the people have to react a certain way to how they're being treated by, you know, the upper class, whether or not it's a fallacy. And this is the point when it comes to the voting and all of this, that, you know, it's two horns on the same head, on the same cow. So a lot of it is trickology, and, you know, they're drawing you into a game that you're never going to win. This is where I stand with Gabs when he's saying, look, certain things, you know,
and he's right.
Happen. But what I do have to say is that my biggest thing with our people is the amnesia. We have to wake up from the amnesia. As we said, these things happen, like Grenfell Tower, you know, and like this, you getting murdered, and then by next week, everyone's forgotten. Nobody's remembering anything. You know, last week they were watching Talk with the Titans, and they were enjoying Gabs and the man them chatting on comedic science in Speaker's Corner, but then there's no connection of thought, or the amnesia kicks in again, and now all of those lessons are disappearing into the atmosphere, and nothing sticks. So I think that is the biggest challenge, to awaken our people to imprint in their minds that they need to read, they need to love their family, they need to research their culture, because these are the things that, as we keep saying, are going to lend weight and galvanize us on a greater level. And then from that galvanization, we can go anywhere. Talk to us, Terry. What was you going to say?
No, I know, as I said to you, I'm listening to the whole thing. And as I say, it's like, for me, I hear everything where we need to go home. But as I said to you before, that once you're a prisoner of war, or you've been pulled out of a country from birth that you don't know a country of, now to go back home, and I always say this, for people to able to even respect you back home, you have to come with some form of strong economical stuff. If you're not coming with strong economical stuff, they would laugh and tell you, go back to where you came from, regardless of where you think you're going. You can go to Nigeria tomorrow. If you're going to Nigeria with empty pockets, they'll give you the next ticket to go back to the UK and say that is your motherland. So if you able to create something on this land over here, and then show them that, you know what, we conquered in the lion's den, and then prove it to them, they will now, because remember, they look over there thinking that the gold is paved, the roads are paved with gold. Even in the Caribbean, they'll say, oh yes, London is paved with gold. But you know what? We need to show them that what we can do, because we're the only race in the UK that knows everybody. So, so as I said, I've seen people that they say they're going home, but if you go home and you don't have a pot to piss in, I'm telling you now, they will run you back out.
Yeah, but Terry, what I would say to that, is this, because remember, we've been doing it. We've been here for how long now? We've been on this side. We've been on this land for how long now? And the stuff that you're talking about, which you're talking about, it ain't happened, bro. The only thing that we haven't done is retreat back home and try that way. Have you noticed that? We haven't tried that way yet. We've been here so long. All this stuff that you're saying, it makes sense, but it hasn't happened.
But Gab,
so my point is,
1 second. But ask yourself 1 second, right? What have we done here?
This is my saying.
We've talked, but we haven't actually put no action to it.
And this is what I'm saying. And this is why I was saying, you need to come out of the chaos, because how are you going to work in chaos? When you're in a classroom and everybody's making that noise and disrupting the lesson, is anybody going to learn? No.
Hold on.
There's too much chaos here, so you're not going to be able to build and grow. Do you see what I'm saying? Because even if we are trying to build up the youth,
no, you're talking at the same time, lads. Let Gabs finish.
Let Gabs talk.
Okay. Now I'm saying, I'm saying, obviously, if we're talking about the youth, let's take the youth for example, yeah. Because remember, I deal with a lot of school kids as well, the youth, because I've been working in schools, secondary schools. Now, watch this. I would talk to some of the brothers about our culture and let them know things that they didn't know. They take the information in, like the brother was saying earlier. They take the information in, but guess what happens? The next day when they come back to school, they've done a madness. They've gone around having fights after school. All the info that I spoke has gone out their ears. Then I do it again, give them the same information, same medicine. Then 2 days later, they've done a madness. Do you know why? Because we're in the place that's not ours. Remember, like I said about the lion animals being trapped in the zoo. They lose their mind. They're still suffering. There's still chaos in the place. So even if you are trying to build up the youth, for example, because of the other cultures that's amongst them, yeah, and distraction that's amongst them, they're always going to get distracted or sucked back into that way. So I'm more saying, I understand what you guys are saying, but I'm more saying, let's come away from this environment. Let's come away from the distractions and let's try it. Let's see. Do you know what I mean? I know what you're saying, that you can't go there, but listen, I've been there. I've seen how easy it is and what you can do. Do you know what I mean? I know how much it takes to do what you're trying to do. That's why even me at the moment in time, I'm even working on something right now.
Yeah, but Gab,
in my life.
No, Gab.
You know
no, Gab. But I understand where you're coming from. But not everybody can go back home and have a good.
No, I hear that.
As I said, there's a few people that can say they can do this because they've got the connection.
Yeah.
Not everybody has the same connection what you will have or what I would have. There's some people that don't have nothing. So how are they going to go over there and do something when they don't have nothing?
This is my point. No, but this is what I was saying. Remember, you see, like you said, like me, I have a connection. If I have a connection and I know that you have a connection, do you know what I do? I build the community in this place, in this land, of people saying, listen, me and the brother Terry have connections over here to do some stuff.
Yeah.
We have a meeting, and if you guys want to do this thing, if you really want to leave and go back, because that's the main option for black people, is either do we want to go or do we want to stay? If you want to leave, the ones that want to leave and make yourselves back home, put your money into this and we can go back and build something back home. That's the whole point, because we are the connection, we are the link back home.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Not just say, oh, just go back home.
He's 100% right, but he's just recognized an institution that
exactly.
Yeah,
he's 100% right. I was never disagreeing with anything he was saying, but when you see this generation of youths who leave 20 chicken boxes on a bus, a woman with a pram to get on the bus, that's the youths we're talking about. They're going back. So when we're talking about the mass exodus, but you see, as you talk about the process, because what we got to start doing now is creating the processes. Everything that works has measures and checks and processes. That's your role, brother. And then what you do is you call to the talented 10% that can enable you to expedite that.
Yeah.
That's your role. And it's not calling on lay people. There's a reason I talk about lay people, because as an expert, you, me, any of us could go and talk in a church hall. There's no point, because what we're going to get, there's something important that you said, Gab. Why haven't we done it? You know why? Because we do the Al Sharpton and we go and talk in a community hall to lay people. And this is what lay people do. And when they leave, you're going to be talking about veganism.
Yeah.
Cooley chicken shop next door, and they're going to eat the same fried chicken with pork enzymes in it. So you're 100% right. And the beauty of what you speak, whenever anybody says something can't be done, you just tell them, don't base it on your limitations. You can't do it. But because that is your role, you surround yourself with those who are legally proficient, economically proficient, in terms of construction, proficient in building properties, in capturing land. There are many factors. You know Africa. Nobody don't want to buy the land twice. So you got to have people who are legally proficient So when the man goes to buy land, he's buying it one time from the actual landowner. All of these things have to be formalized. That's why we create the institutions, brother. But it's beautiful that we're having this conversation. Because
you're right.
every time we have these interesting conversations, we recognize another institution that we're supposed to universally back and adopt, you understand? Because it should be every African's aspiration at some point in their journey, that exodus. And it's not even to say that you give up your red book, it's to say that you have the option. Because what we need to enable ourselves with now, brother, is options. We don't have no options. That's why we're pathetic. That's why as men, we're impotent. Because we don't have no options. What is a man without options? It's a picnic.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we look into other people to represent us. But only children do that. I don't ask nobody to feed me. My child needs me to feed him. So we need to create the institutions. And it does need to happen here, brother. But whilst we're doing that, the ambassadors are working together. And yes, traveling to create these trade missions. Because without trade missions and knowing our counterparts, we don't have any relationship. And what we can't do is just turn up and poop. That's not going to happen in any African nation. We all know that. But I get you 100%. And that's the institution that needs to be built. And we can take taxation out of the country and create that. 100. And then be identifying growth regions.
100. And I was going to say one thing, and that's why I think, me personally, these are more the conversations we need to start having in the community.
Absolutely.
A lot of the brothers and sisters and our elders as well, and the youth, they don't get to see the land like back home for what it is. They don't get to see the opportunity what's there. Because you know what it is? When I started to show some of my college students, especially the black ones, the pictures and the footage they cost back home, they was like, huh? Is that in Africa? Are you sure? They think I'm lying. They're looking at me like, are you sure this ain't America? I'm like, nah. I'm like, this is back. And even adults, they've been shocked. Like, how much is that? Seriously, I didn't know that. Do you know what I mean? Because all they got in their mind is mud huts and flies going in baby's nose. So these are more the lectures and stuff that we're supposed to be having to show present day things, which is happening in the land, showing them how much the cost rate is to have a house to build, how much you need, so people can work towards that. I think, hold on, that's not too much money. I can work towards this in a couple of years. Do you know what I mean? And build something for my generation or for my kids. Do you know what I mean? So these are the conversations that I like. And when people are ready, if they want to do this, I'm telling you, it can be done. It can be done. Everybody else is doing it. Do you know what I mean?
No, definitely. Listen, I'm looking in the chat room and I'm seeing like a brother from Africa, and he made a good point where he's saying, look, Africa has wealth already. We need intelligence to help govern stuff. You understand?
Exactly.
And, you know, I'm feeling him. And I'm glad when I'm looking in the chat room, it's already inspiring a level of commerce and research, talk and communication to a level where things are already happening. This narrative that we're having, as we're saying, is sparking up people's mind into thinking, well, you know what, where can we go? I'm seeing people ask, where do we thrive on the planet? And again, these are key questions because, again, going right back to the Grenfell thing, we let the media write our narrative of our reality. And that's the problem times, where, you know, we only get our reality from the news and from whatever television programs that we watch. So, yeah, that's a constant issue that I think needs to be changed and needs to be looked at.
And these are, as I was explaining, is like, as I said to you, Gabs, is that we understand that we need to go home, but then there's got to be some sort of grassroots to teach and to motivate people to do so.
Yeah.
So So as I said, like me and you, we're like the communicator. We've already been home. We understand what's going on. So we're trying to build that foundation at home, so that when we help people to build a foundation over here, we can now able to transport people home as a form of change, you know. And for us to able to do that, we have to come and galvanize, because we can't be waiting for a next building to be burning down, a next community to get destroyed, a next riot, because all this is all talk. No one on this planet, this UK, or even in the States, are doing the now until we work as one unit, because this is what we're missing. We've got one visitor in the place, Mr. Film Guy. He's been doing a lot of films, been doing a lot of acting. Daniel, Mr. Shorty, give us a little introduction and give us a little point of views on what's happened on that tower.
Yeah, first of all, I'm Shots. I own a company called STM, Shots Taken Media. I'm from West London. I grew up around those towers, and yeah, I'm also an actor. I've been in films like Red Tails, Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, James Bond, the whole set of films, you know, Star Wars recently, Rogue One. So yeah, but straight to the towers, you know, like what happened was, you know, like this government, this Conservative Party, well, it's all of them really, but they don't care about the so-called urban areas where poor people live, you know. We don't have crazy segregation like America, but we do have a segregation with poor and rich, you know. And it starts from there, you know, like if you go to certain parts of that borough, Kensington and Chelsea, you'll see some of the richest house, you know, like tall Victorian buildings, you know, and it's not black owned. These are not black owned buildings. And if they are, they're not people that came from our backgrounds. You know what I'm saying? So you got a whole generation of children, mothers, fathers that are living up in council estates that, you know, they're not protected, or they're not, you know, housed in the right way, and etc. And in the last 8 years, it was bad before, but in the last 8 years, with the Conservative Party in power and budget cuts and so on and so forth, we now have the Grenfell Towers incident. You get what I'm saying? Like, you talk, like, you can see it straight on the news that they're talking a whole lot of rubbish about this situation, you know. They're talking about, man, they're talking about they spent 8 mil on the tower to refurbish, but anybody can look up on the internet. We have the internet now. You can't fool us in skullduggery. We have the internet. We can research. You know, it costs 300 grand to put sprinkler systems in that building. It costs another 100 grand to put a fire alarm system throughout the whole building, siren system on the outside so you know that something's wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things that you can calculate, you know, cutting the budget for the fire brigade. How is it that in Dubai, when the Burj Khalifa was burning, they had a helicopter with water on it? You know, we're meant to be a first world country, not a third world country, and we don't have no helicopter with no water. Like, you got to start seeing what's going on. The Conservative Party came in and they've been running this country like a business, not a country, but like a business. Everything is business. If it's not selling, it's buying. If it's not buying, it's loaning money. If it's not loaning money, it's teething people's money to do different things that have a bigger agenda. You get what I'm saying? And all of these things are just little puzzles in things that they created over the last 8 years. You know what I'm saying? They say we don't have money, but we had an Olympics. Bro. Yeah, they invested billions of pounds into an Olympics, but we don't have money. Yeah, we don't have money. We have to raise the taxes. We have to do all kind of things. But you made an Olympic stadium. You've changed the buses. You've put bikes all around London. This all costs money, you know. Where's this money coming from if we ain't got money?
Mm.
So you got to see it for what it is. It comes to a point where you can see the skullduggery now. Before we couldn't see it because we didn't have the internet. We couldn't reanalyze these things. You know what I'm saying? We could just talk about it borderline, but now we can see it. We can feel it. It's on our doorsteps. But what the problem is now is that black people need to have the sense to have their own shit and start doing shit with their own shit. You get what I mean? And there's a lot of people out there that, like myself, Terry, you know, I know a lot of people right now. There's a lesbian girl called, what's her name again? Black Visions TV. She's doing a lot of things for the black community. You know what I'm saying? We need to all come together and start doing some sort of guidance with our community, because that's the problem with what we're not doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not coming together, unifying everyone. Yeah, we could all do our things on the side, but we come together as a common cause to start really looking at what's going on and really trying to find a way how to change things, because there's a lot of things wrong with our race at the moment in England. Like, forget America for a minute. We're in England, you know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things wrong. The state of mind is wrong, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like we've been deprived of education as well over here. It's like it's not cool to go uni, and it's not cool to have your business, and it's not cool to do certain things. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, we are systematically controlled in England. We are. Everything we eat is their choice. Everything we watch is their choice. You know, power's not even on TV over here. You gotta go on Netflix. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about control. They control everything. The media. Look, do we have a body count in Grenfell? Is there a body count yet? An official body count? No. They're telling me 79 people burned in that tower. 79, yeah? Is that can't be right.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
They haven't even come with the numbers of how many survivors.
Bro, you know, sad. Let me show you what makes me more upset here. You see, when a plane crashes, you hear 600 people estimated of death. You know, when a train crashes, you hear 1,800 of estimated death. You get me? Am I lying?
Definitely
not. Or is that true?
Real talk.
Real talk.
All right. So how comes we ain't heard 600 estimated death at Grenfell Towers? How comes we ain't heard that? How comes I ain't heard that once? I ain't heard that once, you know. That's what worries me, bro. The corruption behind this Grenfell thing is too high up.
True, you're
It's
from
too
the
high
area, brother. Talk to me about the surrounding residents as well, and if you know any of the victims, some of the stories, and how you view everybody's.
You know, it's crazy because I was at home the night my wife went out. She had some business to take care of, and it's mad because at about 12, I heard all the police and but you know, because I live in the hood, it's like you don't think it's nothing, innit? You think it's nothing, man. It's probably some madness going on in Mozart or wherever. You get me? So I didn't penny it. I swear to you, my wife came home. We didn't hear nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like I had the TV on. And really, I'll be honest with you, I don't even watch the TV. I'm more streaming and on my net and all that. So I missed it totally. It was in the morning now. When I woke up, my wife come in the room almost in tears, saying, "Wow, like something really bad's happened." You get me? But she didn't want to tell me because obviously I'm a West London resident. You know what I'm saying? So she didn't. She thought I may have family in there or something. So she's gone like switch on the news. So I switched on the news and I see the tower burning. You get what I'm saying? I'm like, what the? You know, like, this is crazy. That's some 9/11 shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not shit that you see every day. So anyway, that day I had to go work. Obviously, I went work. I come back. As soon as I got back, I packed a bag of kids' clothes. I had some kids' clothes in the closet, big bag, you know, like of like 2 to 3 year old clothes. I took a Moses basket and a pushchair because I was just thinking about kids. You know, like I was just thinking about all these kids that have run out of their house and they ain't got nothing. You get me? So I flew down to, it was about 7:30. Flew down to it was about 8 o'clock. Flew down to Westway. Gave the things off to like the people that were dealing with the victims, and then I went to Harrow Club because I know a lot of people that deal with Harrow Club and run it. So I said, boy, let me just go over there and see if they need help. Like, my cousin was over there, but before I got there, I was just watching the thing was still on fire, bro. It was the eeriest thing to see in the hood, and it still is the eeriest thing. Like walking past it to this day is like, it's damaging. It's damaged the hood. It's damaged the hood. Like people jumping out of the window on fire, you know, people dashing babies from 10 stories high to, you know, catch people. You know, you had like, it was crazy. You had people running in to try and help others, you know, like that may have not come up. You know what I'm saying? Like, bruv, that wasn't even the bad part. The bad part was the next day online, where a lot of people were tapped into the social networking. So you got victims who died on live, you know. You're seeing their last moments live, bro, on Facebook Live. It was just, it is some of the most craziest thing that's ever happened in West London. You know, we've had fires, you know, but not to that extent. Not to that extent. And not to the loss of life. But the saddest part of this all is that, you know, like the government doesn't care about the urban areas. And that is what the whole, I mean, the community coming together, that was the greatest thing, because it showed that the government don't control shit, not around here. Probably with the rich people, but not around here. We look after our own, innit? And that's just what the community showed, that community spirit, which I thought, I won't lie, before that happened, I wouldn't have told you that would have been like that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because we weren't seeing that community spirit for a long time. I hadn't seen it for a long time. But I was very, very happy and overjoyed that it was that, you know what I'm saying? So, but I'll be honest with you, with the whole situation, it's going to get a lot more worse than it becomes better. Like, it's not, this is just the start, bro. This is just the start, you know what I'm saying? I watched a documentary the other day that was dated 1984. I must have been 2 years old. They've been putting chemicals in these buildings since 1984, bro. Yeah? They've been testing shit on us. This is what the guy said in the documentary. To keep the integrity of the structure of the buildings for longevity, to last longer, we will test new chemicals and agents into these buildings as safekeeping, safeguard of the longevity of the building. That had nothing to do with the people.
Yeah.
That had nothing to do with the people. How can that have nothing? How could that whole line have nothing to do with people, but people have to live in it? You know what I'm saying? All I heard was longevity of the building. I heard testing chemicals. You know what I'm saying? Like, this thing has been out there, but we just ain't seen it. You know what I'm saying? We've had other things clouding our judgment. You know what I'm saying? And clouding our eyes and our vision. So this situation's got very deep. And it's got deep because the corruption's level or is on a level that we can't touch right now. Unless we got some, unless our money bracket is in a different light, we can't play with this level of corruption. You're talking about full-scale corporate manslaughter. That's different scale. You know, some people are going to go jail, but the ones that need to go jail, they're not going jail. You know what I'm saying? Theresa May needs to go jail. You know what I'm saying? And her whole constituents, if you ask me, because they're the ones responsible. They're the ones that made the budget cuts. They're the ones that made the legislation. They're the ones that made all these acts that are crooked, like Health and Safety Act gets slashed. How can a Health and Safety Act get slashed to where people live and you're not going to jail? This don't make sense. So the world is now a place that does not make any sense anymore. Yeah, you got Theresa May talking about in order to, and I knew this because I've been signing petitions since 2-3 years ago. Yeah, we're gonna throw away the Human Rights Act so that we can catch terrorism. No, no, no. Let me rephrase that in their terms. We're gonna throw away the Rights Act so we can deal with any of you how we want to deal with you. That's black, that's Indian, anybody that's not English or white or Anglo-Saxon, we're gonna deal with you in a real bad way. So it's gonna get worse. There's no doubt about it. The signs are already there. You know what I'm saying?
Have you, Dan, have you spoken to anyone in the area that's got families that died in the building, and how do you feel that they're taking it at this precise moment?
The community is difficult because the community, there's two sides of the community. There's a community, remember, because the building wasn't full of, you know, like Caribbean and Jamaican and Africa. It was more Muslim African, and you know what I'm saying, Arabs. And so obviously I'm Muslim myself. They're not going to want any anger. So there's that side of it where it's very peaceful and they're just trying to help people and whatnot. And then there's a side of it that's very frustrated. And this frustration is not leading to just simply frustration. It's now leading to anger. And, you know, like, it doesn't help when Theresa May tries to come into the area and talk to victims. It doesn't help because at the moment, it's very, very, I say it's volatile. It's like milk and water. There's a lot of people down there for the wrong reasons with different agendas. You know what I'm saying? As for people that have lost people in there, there's too many that have lost people in. People have lost their cousins, their aunties, their moms, their sisters. I mean, my daughter lost her friend at school, you know? Like, one of her brethren at school was in the fire. She was the little Arab girl you saw, the little Indian girl you saw. Like, so everybody's lost somebody in the vicinity. You know what I'm saying? There's kids that went to the schools that your kids went to. You know what I'm saying? Or you walked past that old lady in the road. Or my cousin, I was freaking out because my cousin lives on the block under the town. So I was thinking debris might lick her house, or you know what I'm saying? Luckily, she was in Jamaica. So there's people everywhere that are just
because it's like you know Nico from Cash Crew. Like his mum lives down on the bottom in the estate itself as well.
You see what I'm saying?
And a lot of people have been talking about, like, you know, and they've been trying to palm them off with this $5,000 thing, where they're saying
that's disgusting. I think that's a disgrace. I think people have lost their whole lives. How about break off some change and change their life so they don't have to ever feel traumatized again? You know, give them all a meal. Because there ain't many of them. There must be about, what, 100 of them? Give them all a meal. Why not? We'll give them 100 grand. Why not? And give them a house. Why not? Change their life.
No, I mean, even the ones that they've put forward as the ones that are dead, they're not even talking about them ones.
They can't though. Like, let me give you a joke here. This is the talk going around in the ends. A firefighter spoke to one of his brethren from the hood, and he told the guy when he went into one of the rooms, he found, obviously, I don't know how bad the bodies were deteriorated or what, but he was very distraught, very emotional, and he said that he found 42 bodies or something like that in the room. Now, that's talk of the town in our area, in one room. So if you're telling me that's 42 people in one room, how many more rooms are like that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You got to ask yourself that question. You got to ask yourself a lot of things. Why are the government hiding the body count? You got to ask yourself how many bodies jumped out the building. So there's a lot of unanswered questions and people are angry. There's a lot of people that I think it's a disrespectful thing when 2 weeks have passed and people are still talking about missing. Like, there is no missing. They're dead or they're not dead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't play with people's emotions and feel that it's acceptable. And I feel like the government have played with people's emotions. And they're continuing to play with people's emotions by lying, and the skullduggery that they're doing with the media, and the skullduggery that they're doing with just in general. You know what I'm saying? I even sometimes, obviously I'm happy that Labour are getting back in power and whatnot, but I even feel like it's a disrespect for them to kind of use this situation to force their power and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? I've seen it. Jeremy Corbyn doing his little thing. It's good, but if you know anything about politics, you know there's an agenda behind it. So it's not really genuine then, is it? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're telling people that, yeah, they should move into the new Kensington houses and rare. Yeah, that's to get more votes, bro, because you want people to think that they're on that side. How about I see more urban families get the chance to live in them big buildings? How about you make the council buy more of these buildings instead of blocks and shitholes for our kids to grow up in? Do you get what I mean? So there's a lot of these things going on that we can't control at the moment, and it's sad. It saddens me because I've got kids and I want them to have a future. You know what I mean? But the future looks very, very bleak with these people in power. You know, these people are dangerous, and as far as I can see, they're trying to kill us. Every single one of us. Any single one of us that has melanin in our skin, 90 for hair, and any one of us that, you know, makes a child with another black woman, we're a threat to them. Period.com. The vibe in Grenfell is eerie. You know, anyone that's connected to their soul, you know, feels a vibe from someone through their actual soul, will know that people have died here. You know what I'm saying? It's not nice. It's one of the worst tragedies that has ever happened in this area. Period. So it's mad. It's mad. You know, the government, the media, fuck them all, basically. There's nothing that they're doing that I feel is good or good enough for those people that lost their lives.
I'm with you, brother. And listen, I know you've been late in the day, but I really want to thank you for coming on and gracing the platform and talking to the people about your first-hand experiences of where you was, what you know. I mean, we've covered a whole range of things. We've talked about the voting thing. Shout out to Dean Oki, who's dropped
The voting thing's a good thing, but again, it's another way of manipulation.
Definitely, brother.
Another way of manipulation. Like you got posters saying, "Boy, better vote." Are you taking the piss? Don't take the piss. Come on. Are you taking the piss? Are you taking the piss like that? That's how you're trying to appeal to niggas. So you think, oh, black people are dumb. You know, we're dumb. So, you know, we're going to stoop down to their level. Boy, better vote. Come on, man. Yeah. I felt kind of insulted by that still. You know, I felt like the government are quite rude.
No, definitely. As you're saying, they're taking an opportunity to plug and put forward their own agendas. That's what I'm seeing. This is the realness of it. You know, very opportunistic ways of getting their point across and continuing with their mind control narrative over the people there. Yeah, and as you're saying, I think if people don't remember and have a memory, which is something we were talking about.
It's just sad because, you know, just before all of this, I was kind of feeling like, yeah, people are getting unplugged from the Matrix. But as soon as this happened, it just made me realize that people are still very much plugged in, you know, and they, you know, they don't really know what's going on, and you know, it's a sad thing, to be honest with you. Like I've just this whole Grenfell Tower situation has opened up a lot of. You can see, where anyone that has clairvoyance and knows about politics and certain things, you can start seeing the cracks and you can read between the lines very easily. You know, picking up a newspaper is very interesting these days.
Definitely. Definitely.
You know, I pick up newspaper all the time now. Let me see what's going on. Because you have to be aware of what path they're going to take with us. Because I don't know what's going to happen next. I see my girl, what didn't she sign a deal today to give, what was it, $1 billion or 98 million or something like that?
Yeah, yeah.
To these crazy people in Northern Ireland. So, you know, I still don't know what's going on. You know, it's like London's just getting worse and worse and worse.
No, I'm with you, brother. Gabs,
Yo.
listen, we're going to be closing out shortly, yeah? And we are going to be doing another part to this, yeah, where I would love both of you to come back and join us, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Before we go, Gabs, would you got anything to close out with? Anything you want to say? Let the people know.
Me personally, last thing I want to say is I just think us as a community, we need to actually get to the main point, get to the main cross, and decide like what is it that we actually want for ourselves and for our future generations. And what is it we actually want to do? Is it either we want to stay here and try and fight and still live amongst the chaos and keep pushing and pushing, or do we want to actually get up and actually leave this place and sort out ourselves and think for our family? Because over here, what I'm seeing just in the Western world is just pure death. You know what I mean? I don't see the unk. I don't see the unk here. I don't see life. I just see death, chaos, corruption, everything. So even though there is corruption and a bit of death at home, at least it's at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least at home in familiar terrain, and you could try and obviously make things better back there. But me personally, I think we need to actually, as a community, we need to decide what is it we want to do. Do you know what I mean? Because otherwise, we're just gonna keep being here, sitting there, saying the same thing for years to come. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's the only thing I want to say, and I'll say thanks for having me on the show. And yeah, I'm here, man. Whenever you're doing the next one, just shout me, man. I'll be there for part 2.
Definitely. And Dan, what are your closing sentiments to the people then?
Yeah, big up that brother Gabriel. Yeah, that's big thing. I'm loving that. You get me? Like what he said there is real. You know, this ain't our country. This ain't our land. Like Chronic says, this is a captured land. You know, all these lands that we feel is our home, like even the Caribbean, this is captured land. This is not our land. So we need to go back or think about end game is going home, you know what I mean? It's there, or something like that, you know, like make your peas. I ain't telling nobody to just close up shop, but make your money, stack your peas, and then try eventually move that pea over there, you know what I mean? It's there like, bam, I need a business or I need a rare over there, and then go over there. Because to be fair, Gabriel's right. This place is messed up. You get me? I'm not going to swear. I'm just going to break it down. It's messed up. And it's not for us. You know what I'm saying? The only thing it's good for is that Queen's note, and business. That's it. And education. You know? That's it. So after we get those 3 things, we should bounce. Yeah. And to be honest with you, our grandparents were doing that. My grandfather worked hard over here, but his money weren't staying here. His money went to the Caribbean. He had 2 houses, and you know what I'm saying, and blah blah. So I think we've lost that element of being black as well. Like we've lost a bit of heritage where we need to look back a bit on what they were doing, because they had the right idea, and we've lost that idea. You know what I'm saying? We're not investing in our race or ourselves. And the funny thing that's sad about black people, and I was saying this to my brother the other day, we'd rather get a freeness from our black brother than pay our black brothers. And that's the next problem with why we don't have our own industries and our own thing in England. Do you get what I mean? So I think we need to work on that as well. Black-owned business needs to happen in England very fast. Yeah. Because our kids have nothing to look up to. They ain't no, apart from footballers and maybe Lewis Hamilton, what have we got to look up to as in a
Rapping.
what Levi
Rap.
reggae sauce.
That's
Stop it.
Mm.
Stop it. You know, like we have to have something more than this. You know what I'm saying? Everything that we had that was good, they've taken from us. Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore. Real McCoy does not exist anymore. You know what I'm saying? There's not a generation of real McCoy. There was one real McCoy in the 90s. They put that in a file. They said they lost it. No, they burned it because it was before its time and it had too much political reference in it. And it had things that would open up our minds and we would know about racist jokes, unracist jokes, political jokes. So, like I said, England's in control, but we need to uncontrol it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? We have the internet. We have filmmakers in our area. For fuck's sake, West London is one of the biggest areas for acting, filmmaking. Like, we should be doing all this stuff. But again, the way the society is very materialistic and self-centered. Do you know what I'm saying? And it takes tragedy like this to wake up some of these people. Do you know what I'm saying? So I hope at the end of next month and the month after, some of these guys that have visited the area of Latimer are still thinking like that, because I'll be honest with you, I'm worried that they'll get back into the same old routine.
Yeah.
Is there anyone on the ground that you want to shout out as well? Shots like that, you know, has been helping with the community effort.
Big shout out to the whole Harrow Club. Big shout out to all of them. Big shout out to Misha, Melissa, my cousin Sam, Deacon, DJ Wigman, even DJ Quincy, Big Business, Sadiq, you know, all of them, everyone from Grove and Latimer, they've just come together. There's too many names, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen everyone. And not only that, big shout out to just London in general. You know, forget just West London, because when I was coming into I call it Ground Zero. When I was coming into Ground Zero, I was seeing traffic jams of people coming into the area to bring stuff. And that's what touched me the most, when I'm seeing people traffic jam. You know what I'm saying? Cars full of nappies, cars full of clothes, cars full of this. Like, so for me, I'm proud of London coming together and saying, you know what, before the government get there, we're dealing with these people, because what they've done is wrong. So, you know, for me, that's why I need to shout out the whole of London, south, east, north, west, wherever you're from in London. Big shout out to you, because you showed the government that we will not stand for injustice, you know what I'm saying, within a corrupted system. And we're all aware of it. That's what it showed.
Awesome. All right, brothers. Listen, thank you for joining me. I want to thank all of the audience that have stuck with the show. Everybody chatting in the chat room. There's been loads of comments. People supporting the show. Enough likes. Thank you to everybody. We will be doing a part 2 in the next few days. At the end of the show, we've had a few technicals, so we've lost Dinoki. I want to say thank you to him for joining us, discussing the laws, discussing the organizational side and the institutional side of things, what we need to set up. Yeah, I want to big up my co-host, Terry Riggs. Yeah, he's been on the ground. He knows people in the area. Me and him both visited the sides, you know. And I want to remind everybody about his event that he's put into play, Mr. Riggs, where we want all the organizations to come out down at Embankment at the Cleopatra Needle on the 16th of July. Yeah, and bring your banners, bring all your gear that shows your representation of who you are there with. I'm going to run the ad now to close us out. But again, thank you for everyone for joining us. So I'm just going to mute everybody's mic and go into screen share mode and